People have died over this information. There's no debate about that.
Welcome, everyone, to We Are Not Alone here on Queen City News Plus. I'm your host, May K. Beeler. Thanks for joining us. I'm also the chief transportation correspondent here at Queen City News, also a pilot of 40 years and counting. I love everything about flying and aviation in the wild blue yonder and what's beyond the wild blue yonder. And today we have a special guest who is a very well-known, highly acclaimed filmmaker who dabbles in the wild blue yonder and what's beyond, things of high strangeness, UAPs, UFOs, orbs, encounters, aliens, you name it. He covers it. His name is Ron James. He joins us now from Sedona. And let me just, Ron, before I welcome you in, I just have to brag about you a little bit. You have appeared on the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, The Unexplained, and Skinwalker Ranch. You produced the film Accidental Truth, UFO Revelations. 28 Film Festival Awards. Wow. And a sequel is forthcoming. You've won all sorts of other awards, 42 national awards, including Excellence in Broadcasting. Good for you. Quite a storied resume. Co-founder of MUFON Television. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Media director for MUFON. Of course, everyone knows MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network, a nonprofit, world's largest and oldest civilian investigation and research network. So much to talk about. Now, you might have some groundbreaking UFO revelations for us today. Welcome in, Ron. Thank you for joining us from Sedona.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. We know you're very busy. You've got some big things, events coming up. Before we get started, how did you get started with all this MUFON stuff? Did you have an encounter? I mean, what piqued or triggered your interest? Something that happened as a child, as a boy, as a young man? What got you into this?
You know, it's interesting. I don't really have one of those kind of stories. I'd always been fascinated by the unknown and the mysteries of life. And at one point, I own a production company, and I was hired to live stream a UFO conference. And this was back in like 2007. And so I went to Washington, D.C. It was called the X Conference, and my production team did the live stream. And it was there that I got to meet all of these people that I'd seen on television. You know, I was a fan of the field just as much as anyone else. I got to meet guys like Eric Von Daniken and Nick Pope and the great Stanton Friedman. And so, you know, it was kind of like I was meeting my heroes almost. But I was an armchair enthusiast until then. But as I started really getting to know the people in the field, I realized that, you know, it wasn't a bunch of tinfoil hat people. These are dedicated, scientific, fact-based people that are trying to get the answer to the biggest mystery in our universe, one of. And then I realized the level of deception that's been going on and the information that's being kept from humanity for pretty much the beginning of recorded history. And I realized that if there was something that I could do with my life and my career, perhaps I could help to unravel some of this and get the truth to the public. And so that's what I've been doing.
So before you got into this, what were your thoughts about UFOs, or had you never really thought about them?
No, like I said, I was kind of a fan of the TV shows of the day. I read UFO magazine.
Okay.
I never instinctively thought we were alone in the universe, but it wasn't like I put a constant amount of thought into it. But I've always had an interest in things like life after death and things like the UFO question and things like what is the actual nature of reality. And what's odd is that these three topics have been mostly what I've covered in my original film career, and it seems to me that they're all kind of coming to merge into something where one explanation really has something to do with many explanations.
So tell us about your projects. You've got this incredible film, Accidental Truth. I haven't watched it yet. I can't wait to see it. Tell us about that. And there's a sequel?
Yes. So Accidental Truth, it's narrated by Matthew Modine. I had interviewed some of the people that have come out on TV that people know Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and a lot of the guys that came out in 2017 with the Navy videos, and a lot of people in between, experts in the field, prolific scientists such as Dr. Gary Nolan and Michio Kaku. And a lot of these guys know a lot more than they're willing to say, and they're all under, security restrictions and everything else. And in some of my interviews, I got them to sort of accidentally let something slip. And that's where the title Accidental Truth came from. Is that, they didn't, an accidental truth is something that comes out through dialogue or evidence that wasn't originally intended to be revealed. And so there's a lot of these guys that I kind of tripped them up in the interviews and got them to admit things that they normally wouldn't admit. And so that's where the title came from. And yeah, it's chock full of really good, solid evidence of crash retrieval programs, secret programs to back engineer technology that we recovered. Basically, all the stuff that's coming out is largely seems to be true. And this film was, a lot of people have said it's the best general UFO documentary that anyone's ever done. I don't say that. I find it flattering. But at the end of the day, yeah, it got 28 film festival awards. It's been seen by millions of people all over the world. And now the sequel is going to take us into realms that I'm not even sure we're ready for.
Whoa, okay, let me back up just a little bit because I didn't want to interrupt you, but you said some things slipped out. You got to share those with us. We're going to watch your film.
Well, sure. So,
So what's
one example of an accidental truth is that, I was interviewing Lou Elizondo, who worked for the Pentagon running the secret UFO program. And in the film, I ask him, well, is there a possibility that there's a interdimensional element to this? Are they coming from, have they already been on the Earth? Are they coming from other planets? Are they coming through time? And Lou, who is, he's not really allowed to say anything. So his answer to that was, well, it could be a lot of things. They could be coming from another planet. They could be coming from some kind of interdimensional thing. They could be here all along. We just don't know. And my response to that was, well, it seems to me that the only thing that you're not debating here is that there is an actual they. And then he just went completely stone-faced and shut up and said, yeah, I can't answer that question. And so that was an accidental truth. Just in a casual course of an answer revealed that, yes, not only is there a they, but there's elements of our society and governing bodies that know about it.
So lots to talk about here, but while I'm thinking about it, what do you believe?
MUFON it stands for the Mutual UFO Network. And the reason I'm bringing them up is because we are dedicated to the scientific understanding of UFOs for the benefit of humanity. So we really like to stick with what we can actually make a really good solid case for. Now, there's things that are happening that do not have explanations, things like experiencers, people claiming to have encounters with non-human beings and all this kind of stuff. Me personally, if I was asked to put my signature on what I would agree to is three core facts. And the first core fact is that there appears to be evidence of unknown civilizations on this planet going back way farther than we're being told. And there's a decent case for some sort of genetic manipulation happening to early humans from unseen hands. And then there is also the fact that the entire scientific community at this point is pretty much in agreement that there must be life elsewhere in the universe. We can't be the only ones. So those 2 points are that I can say with little doubt as a person. And then the third point that I would make is that the non-human intelligence issue is something that elements of our government and industry know way more about than they're telling us. So those 3 points I would pretty much go out on a limb for. As far as some of the more esoteric claims, I don't discount them at all, but you get to a point where your case is solid and your proof is convincing, and that's when you can say, from a scientific standpoint or an anecdotal standpoint, yes, this is something that I think I can prove.
Ron, because you're so into this and you've got this movie, this film, and a sequel, you've interviewed so many people. Have there ever been people you've interviewed or cases you've heard about that you thought, no way, that you just thought, no, this is just rubbish. There's no way. Have you ever had a closed mind like that? Because I know you have to have an open mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people telling a lot of stories that are pretty far-fetched. And some of them, whether I personally believe them or not, uh, in the beginning, I was a lot more judgmental about that stuff than I am now. And here's why. As I start to delve into the connections between the nature of reality itself, the what we have and we call consensus reality and subjective reality, personal experiences, it gets really a lot more difficult to just say this is true, this isn't true, because we're finding out that what one experiences in their own reality is true for them, and the level at which they experience it is on par with the reality in which we all live. So, it's like I call it the quantum nature of truth. I don't think we can say it's black and white, true or false anymore, because we have to take subjective reality and personal experience more into how we perceive and explain these things. So, yeah, I might hear something. I'm like, that's really far-fetched, but am I going to go and attack the credibility and the character of the person? Probably not, because we just don't know. Maybe they did experience that in a realistic way.
Right,
We just
right.
can't say.
We're going to take a break, Ron, and there's so much more to talk about, and we'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to We Are Not Alone. Ron James is our guest today, acclaimed filmmaker. He works with MUFON, has a fabulous film out, a sequel coming. And you guys got a symposium coming up, the MUFON Symposium. Now, is that just open to members? And what's going to happen there?
Well, it's MUFON's annual symposium where members and directors gather from all over the world, and it's so anybody can come if they want to buy a ticket and show up. This year, yeah, we have some very special presentations. We have actor Thomas Jane, who is well known for, like he just recently did that movie 1922. He's the Punisher, which is a historic acting role. He was in that sci-fi series called The Expanse. He's really quite an actor, but he's also a very intelligent, thoughtful person who's been doing a lot of study about AI and its implications on humanity. And his keynote speech is going to be very, very controversial at best, because when we're looking at the advent of AI, unfortunately, right now, I'm not hearing anybody come out with a positive scenario about how this is ultimately going to be good for us. Everybody that you talk to and you hear from, it's all about how AI is going to take over, and there's nobody out there saying, "Oh yeah, AI is great. It's going to totally revolutionize humanity and civilization, and it's not going to take us over, and it's not a threat, and we're going to be fine." Nobody is saying that, and Thomas has put this together in such a way that better than anybody else. And then on Saturday night, we have three different cases of materials that supposedly came and were conveyed to people through non-human intelligence. And testing these materials is proving that they have absolute anomalous elements to them. So it's really some groundbreaking stuff at the MUFON Symposium.
Oh, my goodness.
In fact, do I have this? Yeah.
Do you have
So
one for
this is a sample of some material that came supposedly from a UFO crash. Not a UFO crash. It was a piece of metal that fell off a ship. This stuff's been being studied for 20 years. And the guy that has submitted this material to different elements of government and private industry still in 20 years cannot get a straight answer about what the results of these tests are. And so this particular sample, I went and pulled myself in Ohio, and I turned it over personally to Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and her office, and it went to Arrow, who is supposedly the government agency responsible for studying this stuff. And it's been crickets from them. I can't get a straight answer out of them about what they found. So as they say, the government has some explaining to do, and the plot thickens.
Why don't they give it up? I mean, isn't it time for disclosure? We're talking about this so much more now. There seem to be more sightings. I don't know if it's just because we're talking about it more or the stigma isn't as bad as it once was, but why is all of this happening now?
Austin, there's three main reasons from my standpoint. The first reason is that in order to cover up this information over the years, they've done some pretty egregious things. We have, obviously we've kept the biggest secret from humanity, but we also have developed technology. We have profited from it. We've taken it into private industry and government and done things with it. And the lie is so big that the accountability factor is something nobody wants to deal with. It's like, how do you hold the people that did this accountable for what they've done? So they're going to keep on with the secret as long as they possibly can. The second one is that there's technology that's come from this that they want to keep to themselves. And they're going to do that and fight tooth and nail again for as long as they can. And, another factor to this is that the broader understanding of the non-human intelligence situation may contain elements that are deeply disturbing to humanity. And
like what?
I mean, we tend to think that we're this seriously advanced species and we're number one in the food chain on our planet.
Yeah.
And as Lou Elizondo actually told me, we are not at the top of the food chain in the galactic scenario. What if the government is unable to do anything to protect us from whatever this is? Are they going to say, there's non-human intelligence, we don't know what they want, we have no way to defend against them, and sometimes they do things like abduct people, and there's nothing we can do. People would freak out. So those to me are the three reasons for the lack of disclosure. The one is there's accountability that would be involved that nobody wants to take. Two, there's been this benefit from technology. We want to keep it. Our adversaries want to keep it. And three is there's probably elements to this that we just can't digest. In fact, several scientists studying this topic have come out and said as much, that the trying to comprehend this whole phenomenon is undigestible. It gets into the nature of reality. It gets into the true nature of consciousness. It gets into who and what we actually are. There's possibilities that we're living in a simulation theory type of environment like the Matrix. This all comes into play. And, I'm making this next film, and it's taken me 2 years, and I'm just now finally getting to the point where I'm going to be able to wrap it up. But I've spent 2 years feeling like somebody opened up my head and just started beating my brain with an egg beater, because this is so broad and so profound and so difficult to grasp that even as a filmmaker who's interviewed the top people in the field and done tons of research, all I find myself encountered with is more mystery.
Okay, we're going to take another break, and we'll be back right after this. All right, we're back. You're watching We're Not Alone here on Queen City News Plus. Ron James, acclaimed filmmaker, joins us. Ron, because you dabble in this, and this takes so much out of it, makes your brain hurt. You've had to do so much, right? It makes your brain hurt. I can feel it for you. Do you ever fear that because you're so into it that you may attract some type of encounter?
That's interesting. It really depends on what you believe. I suppose that's always possible. People ask me all the time if I've ever been approached by men in black and warned to sit down and shut up. And the fact is that I haven't directly, but I also know that because of my work with MUFON, because of the controversy and the level of information I put out in my films, that I'm definitely watched. My phone's tapped. When I was making the last movie, I would find little hints that there were people kind of keeping an eye on me, and it comes with the territory. And I hope there's rules, and I don't end up dead in the desert somewhere. But I've Lou Elizondo warned me to be careful one time when there was some stuff happening. So there's always that. People have died over this information. There's no debate about that. People have been killed for finding out stuff and trying to divulge it. Not so much in the modern era.
Mm,
But back in the beginning,
mm.
there's documentation of military in Roswell threatening the citizens. He's saying, if you say anything about this, you're going to end up in the desert. So there's a certain amount of, I guess, danger that comes with challenging the government and challenging the places of power. But I like to think that I'm part of the process and not creating too much of a problem. But they do want to seize the narrative and keep it. And so I don't know if that answers your question very well, but
Well, I just wonder, like Louis Elzondo, why is he allowed to live? Because he's got
well,
all
because
this
he's
information.
doing his job. One thing that I want everybody to understand is that these people that are coming out that are they're the people that have been keeping this a secret for as long as they've been keeping it. Let's say it goes back to the Roswell eras in the 1940s. These people have been running this thing from deep within government and industry, and none of us know who they are, and none of us are probably ever going to know who they are. Their wishes bubble up through the military and through the intelligence communities, and the people that we see front facing are not the people making the decisions about what we're going to be told. What we saw in 2017 was the beginning of an organized rollout of information, loosely organized, to give us some form of disclosure because time is running out for this secret. There's going to be so many things that happen that pretty soon you just can't deny that this is happening, and then they're going to be on their back feet. So in 2017, guys like Lou Elizondo, guys like Chris Mellon, the TTSA with Tom DeLonge, they were all part of this decision to start making information available. Lou Elizondo has a background in intel. He has a background in disinformation. He is a lifelong intelligence operative who made an oath to do what he was told.
Mm.
And like it or not, that's what he's done all the way up until now. So what I tell people is anybody who comes forward with a story like David Grush, the guy that says we have back engineered craft.
Yeah.
Any of these people that come forward with a story, but before they can tell it, they have to get it approved by the Department of Defense. They're not a whistleblower. They are a character actor.
Okay. Quickly, does President Trump know?
I have it on good information that President Trump has been briefed on certain elements. Uh, I've met personally with 10 Congress people at this point, and the word is that Trump has been briefed. He knows something. He doesn't know the whole story. Nobody really does. But yeah, he knows that there's non-human intelligence, and they're looking at ways to disclose it.
All right. Before we say goodbye, what do you want people to know?
I want I want people to know that when we spend all of our time focused on life inside this world that we're living in, we're missing the bigger picture. The spiritual aspect of all of this is basically that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and that harkens back to the most ancient of religious teachings, and it's also the message that many of these supposed ETs and non-human beings are trying to convey to us. So get back to your inner core and your spiritual source, and you'll always be okay.
I love that. That gives me peace. How can people get in touch with you?
They can email me at media@mufon.com. They can follow the progress on the film at Accidental Truths with an S, accidentaltruths.com. And it should be Accidental Truth Next is going to come out probably in fall.
Anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Well, I'd like to thank you for having me on. And I hope that for people that might have been on the fence about this or people that might be non-believers that this is even a thing, maybe I've made a reasonable enough case that people are willing to take a look at it and, do your own research and accept what resonates with you and put the rest aside.
Any need to be afraid?
Uh, there are people that tell me that if the information came out, there would be a certain amount of fear, but yeah, I don't think there's any imminent danger that we're going to be taken over by aliens. I think the big problem is that we're going to destroy ourselves before we find out the secrets of the universe, which is a sad, sad thing if we do it.
Ron James, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. Can't wait to see your original film and the sequel. And
Oh yeah, people can see Accidental Truth on YouTube for free.
Okay.
It's and they can rent it on Amazon. It's a good film if you want to be brought up to speed.
going to watch it. Thank you for your time, sir. And thank you, everybody,
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Thank you, Ron. Here on We Are Not Alone. We'll see you next time on Queen City News Plus. Thanks so much for joining us.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.